Welcome to the Curious Conversation Collaborative, a community for purpose-seeking entrepreneurs, leaders, and changemakers.
Listen to inspiring conversations with your hosts, inner leadership mentor Tessa Van Keken and business wealth coach Karen Ravel.
In this final episode with our guest, Julia Barnickle, we talk about how ease really is our natural state and how we need to be more comfortable with failure. I hope you enjoy it.
I think it's a very interesting thing, and I was thinking, did that bit for you, that bit where you are so able to just make your decisions based on what's here now for you, is that for you, is that totally natural, or is there something, did you have to do something, or did you do something that helped you be in that space?
Sorry, I've gone quiet. make the most of it. It's funny because so much of how I am now, I feel is totally natural. And yet, I mean, I trained as a life coach, I did NLP training and whatever, and I'm sure that, and I've read a lot as well, you know, self-help books. So I'm sure that a lot of what I perhaps was already doing naturally has become enhanced. I mean, for example, when I was first diagnosed with breast cancer, I was not in a good place. My mum died a month later as well, so I was in an even worse place. And I was quite angry, and you know, not pleasant to be around, perhaps. And I remember somebody saying to me once, you need to find peace. And I kind of didn't know what she meant at the time, but I do now. You know, I definitely have found peace. I'm not quite sure where I found it, or when, you know, where it was hiding. Because I think all of these things, I think, are our natural state.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, I said I was watching a video this morning, and the guy was saying then, you know, we're born perfect, and for some reason, you know, I don't know quite where these things come from, but influences from outside change that for some people.
When we talk about that, like it being natural, and I think it was very beautiful what you say, that like we have that all in us, that again that ease what you mentioned, and even that inner wisdom of knowing what you need to do right now, we all have that within us, but we lose the connection, we can't get to it, right? And I think, well, you know, yourself with life coaching and stuff, that's often the work we do with people, helping them to connect to that again. It's not that we give them solutions from the outside, it's helping them to find, it's not even the solutions, but finding that space within where you can be at peace, where you can do that. To me, from listening to you, it sounds that one of the things that may have caused it to feel as it always being there and being natural is that you always were open, like open to, if you read things or listen to things or try things, that you're open to the experience, open to whatever comes your way, to think, hey, yes, I can use that, and or to at least to be open to let it sink in. And even the way you say of allowing yourself to watch TV, to let your unconscious do its work, even that is a way of being open to let the process, if you like, happen, instead of trying to make something work and trying to figuring it out and trying to make something happen. So to me, it sounds that maybe by being that, like being that way, and for some people that might just, you know, feel easy to do, and for other people need to be a bit more mindful to do it. But even where you mentioned that you still had to make that conscious choice of, in the beginning anyway, to, for instance, to go watch TV and allow yourself to do that and not.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it was a conscious choice in the beginning, because I think that I've only sort of analysed what the process is afterwards.
Yeah.
But I just knew that was all I could do.
Yes.
That was all I felt like doing. That's all I had the energy to do. And looking back on it now, I can say, actually, what was happening there was this.
Yeah. But it was the acceptance then, in a way, to not
yes.
try to say that when that was all you could do, to not be in fighting that. Whereas I think a lot of people go into that space of, well, I should be able to do more, or I want to be able to more. And then their focus or their energy goes to fighting the situation, whereas it seems like from listening to you, you're very much attuned to being able, well, this is all I can do. So this is what I'll do.
Yes, yes.
Would that be...
Yeah, definitely. Yes, it was all I was able to do at the time. And there's some comment or some saying about wishing, you know, wishing something were different isn't going to make any difference. You know, I know, you know, if we think of things like the law of attraction, you know, you can kind of manifest things. And I have manifested things, but you can't manifest what you want if you're wishing that things were different.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very negative place to be, which is why when I talked about what if life were meant to be easy, I said it's not a kind of a boo-hoo, you know, life isn't easy. It's just kind of saying, look, guys, I think life is supposed to be easy. How about you? And I was thinking as well, and this kind of comes into what you were just saying, but also what we talked about before about planning. It is about being open and curious, and just accepting that there may be possibilities.
Yeah.
You don't know what they are. So, I mean, as I said earlier, Karen knows that I used to work in IT, and she said to me a couple of times, how did you end up in IT? You know? And the story behind that is I was working as a secretary in a permanent job for a couple of years. And I wanted to have a proper career, you know, something I could enjoy that taxed me a bit more than, or taxed my brain a bit more than just being a secretary. I mean, I enjoyed the company I worked for. You know, I enjoyed the people. I had a great time. I used to go to their cricket matches and do the scoring for them. And one day I actually played because they were a man short. So, you know, all these sort of things that I would never have thought of doing or never imagined doing. But I wasn't getting paid a huge amount of money. So I got a job in a pub a couple of evenings a week. Or actually, it was just one evening a week. And one evening it was quiet in the pub, and there was a newspaper on the counter, and I generally don't read newspapers anyway, and I certainly didn't read this local newspaper, but it was there, so I picked it up, and it was open at the classified adverts page, and there was an advert in there, a box advert for a training course in computer programming. And I looked at it and I thought, because I'd had a couple of experiences of computer programming, once at school and once at university, and was useless. I mean, the program I did at school, we had to send it off to another school because they had a computer. And the printout came back from my program and it said, what? Which wasn't necessarily an auspicious start. So when I saw this thing, I thought, well, I don't know. I couldn't imagine what a computer programmer would do in a business. And I also couldn't necessarily see how that would fulfill my dream to be paid to travel and make use of my language skills. But I thought, well, it might be interesting. there might be a chance of travel, I don't know, but I'll give it a go. And I was accepted onto the training course. And in fact, that was the only time where I left the job before I got accepted onto the training course. But I did a training course for 3 months. And that in itself is another story, but another day. And started a career that lasted, well, the corporate career lasted for 18 years. But I had absolutely no idea, you know, and I'd worked for 6 different companies in that time. And I did get paid to travel eventually as well. You know, spent 2 months in New Zealand, a month and a half in Hong Kong, you know, places I would never have imagined going to.
It sounds like a real, again, that openness, curiosity, and a willingness to do something, to experience whether it's right for you, rather than, again, analyze, like figure it out first and then trying, but to just go figure it out, don't know if it's like, but there might be a possibility. I heard you say a few times, like, well, I didn't know, but I thought there might be something. And I think that is something that really sounds, that openness again to dive fully in a way and to experience, and then base your ultimate decision on the actual experience, rather than first trying to make the decision and then experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And while you were saying that, I was thinking back to my client who was saying, well, you know, what should I do? And because people are afraid of making a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, I've made tons of mistakes. And in fact, I remember I was at a workshop once where we were talking about success and failure. And one guy was really kind of type A, and he was kind of saying, oh, success, success. And I said, I'm more comfortable with failure than success. And you could hear all their jaws drop onto the floor. You're what? But I think you have to be comfortable with failure, because failure is not this awful thing that people think it is. It's just another outcome. You know, it's like if you think of a scientific experiment, you know, and we used to play with Bunsen burners and whatever those little glass things were called at school. And sometimes it worked. Most of the time it didn't work. But it's not a failure. It's just, okay, so that didn't work. So what do we need to do to make it work, or to, you know, how can we fudge the results or whatever? You know, but failure isn't such a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
So Julia, if you were to sum up this whole concept of ease and taking life as it comes, like how would you sum that up? Or what advice would you give to someone else who wanted to have a life of ease and you know, being in the moment and that?
I was going to say, you want a short answer, don't you?
No, we can cut it, we can edit it.
Because I don't do short. It's funny because I was going to say there's a book on my shelf which I should have got down. I've been reading recently, or rereading, called The Art of Possibility by Rosamund Stone Zander and Benjamin Zander. And one of the chapters is called Rule Number 6. And rule number 6 is, don't take yourself so seriously. And I think that if you want a short answer, I think that's it. You know, as soon as we start taking ourselves seriously, we start to worry about, but what if it all goes horribly wrong? Or what if I don't like it, but I'm stuck in that job or that marriage or whatever, you know, or whatever it is, you know, we kind of think everything's permanent. You know, it's like, I mean, I know in my parents' generation, for example, a job was for life, you know, and you got a little gold watch at the end of it if you were lucky. But I've never felt like that. You know, I've just felt, well, life is for life. A job is, you know, for however long a job is for. however long it's of interest, and because I think everything we do, we need to be growing. So I think ease is about just allowing that to happen, and it really is allowing it. Not thinking, oh, I have to do this, or I have to do that, or I have to know what I'm going to be when I'm 43 or something. Don't take it all so seriously. It's just, if something appeals, give it a go. If it stops appealing, then stop doing it. Try something else. Just keep trying different things. Be curious. Have fun. Life is meant to be fun. There's a book, the second book by a woman called Anita Morjani. She wrote a book called Dying to Be Me. And her second book is called What If This Is Heaven? And I love that title. I was really annoyed that she'd brought a book out with that title, because I would have pinched that title, because I was telling another friend the other day, whenever I see a picture of the Earth from outer space, I get quite teary, because it's just so beautiful. And we're just so lucky, to be on this planet. I mean, when you look at all the other planets just in our own solar system, they're all rubbish. Or if you compare them with the Earth, I mean, the Earth is just so intoxicatingly beautiful. I can understand how people must feel when they see their baby for the first time. I don't have kids, so I've never experienced it, but it's just so beautiful. It's so perfect. And we're just so lucky, and why not enjoy it? Why not enjoy the ride? What else are you going to do? There's a part of me, the kind of the structured part, that might think, well, I suppose it's difficult to explain to people. But then if you start off by saying, well, we're all perfect, it's like anyone can do this.
I think it's what you mentioned about, we're all born perfect, or we're all born with this capacity. Because even the being born perfect, I actually wrote down, we're all born imperfectly perfect. As in, it's not perfect as like everything is good, everything is happy, because people think perfect means everything is always happy, there's no sadness, there's no suffering. Because that's, like, as you mentioned, ease is not about that everything is easy.
No.
Ease is not about that everything is all the time, that you don't feel sadness or anger or worry, even that you don't feel it at all anymore. But the ease is around allowing it to be that way, and then making your choices within the limits, that the real limits, not the perceived or believed limits, if you like, but the limits, as they actually are. So I think that is so good for people to hear. And you mentioned that about being born perfect. So I think it's for people, you mentioned it at some point as well, about something, I had to remember that. I had to go back there. Like, it was already there, but you have to remember it. So I think also that process or that actual remembering, maybe for you that has felt more natural and more easy, whereas for someone else who's maybe very rigidly in that, constantly struggling with resisting what is and wanting things to be a certain way, for them it might be more difficult. But it's not necessarily that the being at ease or living with ease, that in itself is less achievable for them, but it's maybe harder for them to get there. So they might just need a little bit more support around actually remembering that, if you like.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, I just got this image, ease is not a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's, you're still living life as people do, with all the, the challenges and whatever. And actually, I think probably people could change, in a heartbeat sort of thing. They could change the way they decide to think. You might need to keep reminding yourself, but it's not, I don't think you necessarily have to kind of, go through a process over several months to be able to get to that point. It's simply saying, okay, I choose to accept life as it is, warts and all kind of thing, we say in English. And I choose to find ways to make the most of it, or to enjoy life as much as I possibly can. And it, again, as I say, it can be tiny little thing.
And I think it's like what you said about that client of yours with making that decision of the, like, yeah, but what if this, or what if I make the wrong choice? So I think for some people, it's just that little bit harder to let go of trying to want to know what might happen, or like to let go of the what if you like, to actually make that choice as an experience choice, and rather than just saying, oh yeah, I won't worry or something, and to actually let go of wanting to know what might happen, or as you said, to be willing to make a mistake. I think that's really it. It's that being willing, because you might want to not worry, and you might say, yes, no, I'm totally ready to choose to live with ease. But as long as you kind of are not willing to make a mistake, if you want to make the right choice, then it's very hard to do that. I guess it's like being ready around that. And I'd say from what you've been talking, I'd say clients would be very lucky to get that kind of support of seeing also the example of that. Again, as you said, it's not about that nothing bad happens in your life, or there's no challenges or no struggle, and but that within that it's still possible to make that choice.
Yeah. And it's thinking about the making mistakes or whatever. I mean, it just suddenly occurred to me, if somebody wants to lose weight, for example, or wants to eat healthily, and they start eating, salads all the time, let's say, and then one day they have a biscuit because they just, or a cake because they just feel like it, and then they kind of go, oh, that's the diet ruined. Have to start again from the beginning. Well, no. It's a blip, on the radar or whatever. It's not. Again, it comes back to don't take it all so seriously. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, it comes back to, can you then say to yourself, okay, I ate a cake. I can even give out to myself for a moment to have done it, but now look, it's done. I choose to eat my salad again tomorrow, or whatever you chose. I think it's very interesting because a lot of my practice comes from, like, you mentioned some of the books you read, but a lot of the practices I do with mindfulness and meditation comes from Japanese Buddhism and other traditions from there. Thich Nhat Hanh, you might know, I don't know if you know him. But I think there as well, there are a lot of the philosophies they have around. For instance, one is precepts that say, for today only, do not anger, do not worry, be grateful, be true to your way and your being, and be compassionate to yourself and others. But the most important part of it is the for today only.
Yes.
Okay, so it's about each time. So rather than exactly what you're saying right now, it's like, what if you have fallen off the wagon for a moment, instead of then being, oh, no, that's that. Instead of saying like, no, I mean, we do still get angry. We do still, but if each time we set that intent, that real intent, not just to say, oh, I will be happy today. No, it's like this being grateful, like for today. And
I would even start with for the next hour, or the next half hour, or the next 10 minutes. I think that's the thing. It doesn't matter how long it's for.
No, it's just that phrase of like, don't think of forever, like the same thing what you said, that someone who's making a decision about a job, because they're thinking about, oh, this is forever, instead of right now, what feels right to do. It doesn't matter about whether, like. Thank you for listening. Did you enjoy this episode? do share your thoughts and questions in the comments or send us a message.
Do you know someone else who'd be interested in our curious conversations? Please share and spread the word. You can find out more about us at karenravel.com
and tessavancaken.com. Tune in next week for another curious conversation.